Hey everybody, I have a super exciting video for you guys today. This is in anticipation of the new Mario movie that's coming out next week at the time of filming. It could be out already, depending on when you're watching this video. And obviously we are making Yoshi today. I have been a long time Mario super fan since I was a little kid. Playing like the Super Mario on the NES all the way to every single Paper Mario, and of course some of the Yoshi games as well. I love Yoshi's Crafted World. It's so cute, and the music just it's so quirky and chaotic. I love it. Anywho, so I was super excited to see that Yoshi was going to be a character in this movie, and of course we're going to be making him. So we have lots of pieces to make. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of sewing involved, but that's okay because the end result is gorgeous. And obviously, if you guys are going to go see the movie just like I am, maybe you want to bring a little friend along with you. So let's get started. So this is everything that we're going to need to make our own Yoshi. This is probably the most different kinds of yarn I've ever included in a tutorial, so it was a little tricky getting it all in the same shot. Basically, we just need a lot of different colors for Yoshi. So you need your body color. So I'm using green this time around. The secondary color for the belly, I have white. And then for his shoes, he's got kind of like a yellow sole, and then the shoes are orange, as well as the spikes are the same color as his shoes. And then for the turtle shell on the back, I've got this kind of like cherry red and the white as well. I'm just going to kind of move these out of the way a little bit now. We also have a worsted yarn as well. So all the other types were weight 6. So I'm using Bernat Blanket. And then we also have a weight 4 worsted for the eyes. Okay, so we're gonna move that out of the way as well. And then moving on to our hooks. So I use an 8mm crochet hook for my weight 6 blanket yarn. And then for the worsted yarn, I'm using a 4mm hook. Okay, I'm using 12mm eyes, a stitch marker, a needle, some scissors. We have our polyfill, and then these are kind of my substitute for toothpicks. Those are basically for helping to position pieces as you're sewing. They're not necessary, but I would say they're really, really helpful. So if you don't use toothpicks or I think people use shish kebab sticks are really handy too. Since there's going to be a lot of sewing involved in this pattern, you do want to be able to make sure that you're positioned properly. Okay, that's all the not fun stuff. Let's get going on the pattern. Let's get started. Okay, so since we're going to be working this pattern in pieces, technically speaking, we can really start with any piece that we want. I'm just going to get started with the head because I feel like that makes the most sense. But you can definitely make this out of order if you prefer to make small pieces first. So let's start with the head. We are going to grab our main body colors, so I'm working in green. We're going to do our magic ring. Okay. Pull that through and chain one to secure. And then just kind of untuck this center piece. Just like that. When you untuck that piece out, it's easier to pull tight without snapping your yarn, and then we'll just go back and resecure it later. Okay, so 8 single crochet. Okay, pull snug. Round 2, we're going to increase all the way around. Where are we? There we are. Grab our stitch marker. Okay, round 3, we are going to single crochet 1, and then increase, and repeat that around. So single crochet 1, increase, single crochet 1 and increase, and just keep repeating. It's funny, at the time of filming this video, I legitimately just finished designing the first one. So I'm going from one Yoshi right to the next, and I can just anticipate my hands and wrists are going to be really sore after this. Normally I don't work to like medium to large projects back to back, but I won't complain. Yoshi is worth it. Here we go. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my hook out for a second. I'm going to secure my magic ring. So with that, grab your needle and you're just going to follow the same direction that it already wants to go in. And we're just going to go all the way around the circle one more time. That way we don't have to worry about our magic ring coming loose. It would be a nightmare finishing your project and then realizing that your nose is falling apart. There we go. Nice and snug. Now I don't have to worry about falling apart. Okay, let's pick up our loop again. And we are going to go to round number 4. So we're going to single crochet 3 and then increase. And we're going to repeat that around if I didn't already say that. Okay, now we have rounds 5 and 6, and both of those are just going to be single crochet around. Okay, I just finished round number 6. My work always ends up inside out while I start a magic ring, so I'm just going to pop it the right way out. There we go. And we are going to start round number 7. So we are going to do single crochet 3. I don't know if you can hear some like weird sounds in the background. My dog's right next to me and he's like licking his chops and making like kind of a really gross sound. So sorry, it's not me, I promise. And I just realized as well for the decreases, I'm going to show you guys how I do my decrease. I think I do this in every video. Just in case, because I have a technique where you can make sure that you get rid of like the gaps completely. So if you insert, so this is a decrease I'm at right now, insert into the first stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop. Now you have 3, yarn over and pull through all 3. So it might look a little weird right now because you can stick your finger through part of the stitch, but when we work around it the next time around, we've actually created a fake stitch underneath where we did our yarn over, pull through 1. And when we insert into there, it gets rid of the gap completely. Okay, so I'm going to show you that one more time. And then when we work into it in the next round, I'll show you exactly what I mean about eliminating the gaps. So we're going to insert into this first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1. Into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. Okay? If you guys have a different decrease technique that you'd rather be using, by all means, you're welcome to use whatever method that you would like. Okay. Now we are going to go to round number 8. So this is decrease all the way around. So I'm going to show you as we work into a decrease here. So the first part of my decrease goes into a regular stitch. The second part of my decrease, you can, if you were to insert into the top of the stitch like you normally would, right, you're going to be real gappy. See my finger there? So don't go in there. You're going to insert instead into the next bar under. So you can see it'll go in very nicely. We've created a fake stitch in there. Your hook naturally wants to go in there. And you can see now there is no gap, and you actually can't even tell that that is a decreased stitch. It actually just looks like a regular single crochet, which is really cool. So I'll show you again. So not into the top bar, we want to go into this next one down here. Okay, and again, it's completely closed up. Okay, so let's continue decreasing all the way around. If it hasn't become obvious yet, this is going to be the nose of Yoshi. Okay. Perfect. So we should look kind of like a little mushroom cap at the moment. We are going to start bringing it back out into the head. So we're going to be increasing, and also grab your white yarn as well because we're going to be doing some color changes. So we are going to start with 3 increases in the green. Which I know is a little bit awkward right after doing all those decreases in the previous round, but I promise it works. Okay, so I've just finished my 3rd increase here. We're going to grab our white yarn and we're going to be adding it in. Basically what this is for, grab my other Yoshi here if it fits under the camera. Perfect. We're working on this part in here. So we're basically just kind of connecting the chin. So when we stitch on our cheeks and attach our belly, it's all like one piece. Okay, so it kind of flows nicely. If you are super uncomfortable with color changes, I guess it's not 100% necessary, but it definitely helps give like a really finished look at the end. So even if you've never done color changes before, or if you're not comfortable with it, I challenge you to try it today. So I have just gone ahead and backed out of my last stitch in my increase. So I've worked one single crochet in the second one. As you would finish, you would yarn over and pull through 2 loops, right, to finish it. Back out of that last part and just keep those 2 loops. That's where we're going to introduce our white yarn. So we are going to basically just like yarn over and pull through with our white. So now we are going to be adding our white yarn. We're going to tie these 2 tails together, so the little end and the green, and don't cut your green. We're going to be going back and forth. Okay, I'm going to give it a 3rd knot there. Okay, so now we're attached. Now for working 2 different colors, I guess in theory, every time you do a new color change, I mean, you could be cutting your yarn off, but it's definitely not user-friendly. So let's try to carry it if we can. And we are going to do 6 increases in white. Okay, so just using the white yarn, forget about the green for now. Now, however you would like to, whatever kind of technique you'd like to use for carrying your yarn over, I'll show you what I do. Sometimes I'll be carrying it like under the white with me, and I'll probably show that a little bit later. But for now, I'm actually just going to leave it hanging until my color change. Okay, did I do 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more. Okay, and again, on the second part of your increase, so 1 single crochet, and on the second one, we're going to change colors again. So I'm going to be changing color kind of from this direction. So I'm going to have my green tail hanging out on the green side. I'm just going to yarn over and pull through. And basically I'm just going to kind of stitch over this green tail on this side to make sure that it's secured in place. Like it's not just hanging around in the center and loosey-goosey. Yeah, so basically just give it like enough give so that it's not pulling, cinching from the sides. Okay? So we're going to finish off with the green increases, 3 more. So I'm going over my yarn tail and obviously through the stitches. And that's what it looks like there. So I'll probably do maybe 1 more stitch to secure it. If there's a little bit of a gappy hanging out in the center, totally fine with that, as long as it's a little bit secured with my stitches. Okay. My last one's starting to get snug, so I'm just going to leave that there and just go through the stitch instead. Awesome. So basically that's what we're looking like there. Okay, let's move on. We are going to be doing round number 10. So we're going to single crochet 7. Just be wary, since a lot of our stitches are quite crowded at the moment with all those increases, that we're not skipping over any stitches by accident. Okay, and in stitch number 7, just don't complete the stitch, so leave it hanging out there. Let's bring our white over. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the green. I'm going to pull it across on the white side. Make it a little loosey-goosey so I can stitch on top of it. and then I'm going to stitch over it just like this. Okay, and we are going to do single crochet 2, 1 and 2. That's probably good enough to keep it. Yep, that looks good. We're going to do an increase, and a single crochet 1, increase, one, increase, 1, and another increase, okay, and a single crochet 1, and actually, sorry, 1 more single crochet, so 2 white single crochets at the end. Then we're going to change back to green. Okay, again, kind of loosey-goosey over the green here, and we're going to stitch over it. Just getting a little tangled here. Here we are. And we're going to finish off with 6 single crochet in green. Okay, now we are going to work on round number 11. So we're going to single crochet 8. Let's just spin this around here. So in green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. On number 8, we are going to change over back to white. Okay, loosey-goosey. So it kind of follows where the white is. And we are going to single crochet 14 in white. Okay, on the 14th stitch, we're going to go back to green. Okay, extra loosey-goosey on this one because there's actually quite a lot of stitches we're going to go around. And we will do what was left, 6 single crochet in green. I'm making sure that I'm picking up this. See, if we weren't stitching over top of it, it would just kind of hang out in the center and obviously get loose. Oh, I wasn't centered. And obviously get loose over time. So that's why it's important to make sure, if you're not carrying it through your color changes all the way through, to make sure that you're stitching on top of it as you go. I just prefer this method other than carrying it through the stitches because sometimes your other color will peek through as you're carrying it, which I find really annoying. So that's just me. Here we go. Okay. Round number 12. So we're going to single crochet 11 in the green. I picked this up one last time. And then I'm happy with that. So see, now it's quite secure. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so that was one. Okay, we are going to change color in that last one there. Back to white. And we are going to single crochet 9 in white. Now, before I get too far, I am going to show you how I carry my yarn across, just for educational purposes and because I actually do want to do it in this round. Basically, so I'm going to be doing 9 white stitches across, and then I've got tons of green. So I can either carry it a short distance this way, or I can stitch over it all the way across the back. I'd rather just carry it a short distance. So in that sense, I'll just show you what it looks like. So I work my stitch until this point. So I'm ready to yarn over and pull through. And then I'm just going to lay my green across. So it's not coming to the front. I'm not using it to yarn over, pull through. It's just getting laid in behind the stitch. And it basically just gets stuck in the back here. So it's not going to peek through. It's not part of the stitch. It's not really getting actually carried under the stitch either. It just kind of got picked up at the very end. So it's still only inside. And that's how I would carry it across the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll do it one more time. Lay it across the back. And I think this was stitch number 9. 8, 9. Okay, back to green. So now the green is right here to pull through, just like that. Okay, and we are going to finish off with 8 single crochet in the green. Let me unravel here. Okay, now this last round is the last, or this round is the last one that we have the white for. So this is the last time we're doing color changes. So we have single crochet 5 in the green. And a decrease. Single crochet 6, okay, and then back to white. So we're just going to pull the white right across the front here. And I'm just going to stitch over it. We're going to do single crochet 1, and a decrease, and a single crochet 2 in the white. I'm going to bring my green across here just to float it through the back. So that I can pick it up again. On that second single crochet of the white. We're going to go back to green. So we did in the white 1, decrease, and then 2. Okay, and then back to green. We can fasten off our white. Yay! No more color changes for actually a long time. I think it's just the feet that have color changes now. Okay, so let's tie that off. We want to make sure it's nice and secure. You can see inside we did a pretty good job of, keeping the tails, against the walls there. The rest of it will get flattened out with the fluff, so it looks good. Now let's finish this off. So we have a single crochet 2 and a decrease. Single crochet 4. And a decrease. All right, we're smooth sailing from here. Round number 14, we're going to single crochet 2 and then decrease. And we're going to do that all the way around. My dog's making old man noises. Again, I swear it's not me. If you can hear that, I really don't know how much my phone is picking up. You literally sounds like an old man. He is kind of an old man. He's about, is he 7 years old this year? No, he'll be 8 years old this year. He's an old man. I'll have to bring him on camera later so you guys can all see him. Here we go. Okay, we are at round number 15. So we are going to do single crochet 4 and then decrease. And repeat that all the way around. Okay, round number 16. We're going to single crochet 1 and then decrease. And then single crochet 3, decrease. Another single crochet 3 and decrease. and then single crochet 2. Okay. Now, before we go any further, it's probably a good idea to stuff the nose if you haven't done that already. Just while it's easy to get your fingers in there. So for stuffing the nose, just make sure that you're getting right around to like the very outside of it. And not just in the center, so you don't want to have any like punky spots. And you notice as you're stuffing as well, it'll kind of balloon out a little bit more before it was sitting flat, but then it kind of takes shape. Okay, happy with that. You can also stuff the head too if you want. I might get a little bit in there now, and then I'll just add the rest of it after. I'll probably finish that up after. So let's move on to round, where were we? Round number 17. And we are going to do single crochet 2 and then decrease all the way around. Okay, I'm just going to finish up the next little few stitches here and then finish stuffing. So the next round, round 18, is just a partial round. We're basically just bringing it down to 6 stitches. So we're going to do an additional 3 decrease. Okay, and that's it. So let's go ahead, cut your yarn, give yourself a bit of a tail. And just pull it through your stitch. So we have fastened off here. Finish stuffing the head now, if you haven't already. Okay, I feel like that is good. It doesn't need to be crazy firm because once you start sewing on different parts to the head, like the cheeks and everything, that gives it extra structure too. So it doesn't need to be crazy, crazy firm. That feels good to me. Okay, let's close up the back end. So we are going to do that by basically zigzagging through all the stitches. So I'm going to come through just the front loop only from the top down, and then from the bottom up of the next stitch. From the top down, I actually have 2 bars to pick up on this decrease. Depending on how you do your decreases, you may only have 1, but I'm going to go through 2. Okay. And then again, top down and bottom up. And then pull it tight. Oops. Pulled it so tight it ripped it out of my hands. There we go. So it gives it a really nice finish when you do it like that. And then we're just going to go through, I'm going to continue to go around in a circle through those stitches again. Basically make sure that it's not going to pull undone. Okay. And then we're basically just going to be weaving it secured essentially. So this is the bottom. Obviously this is like the chin, right? So if you want to be doing some weaving, probably stick to this side so that you know it's not going to be visible. So I'm just going to pull up into a spot over here. And essentially I'm just going to insert my needle through the stitches. So I'm weaving right through the center of them. Just like that. Okay, so I've gone in this direction. Go back to where you came from. And then go again in the same direction, but just under a different round. And essentially we've created a zigzag. So we've gone 1, 2, 3. That can't come undone. And that's it. So let's sink the yarn. Get it into the head, pop it up somewhere else. Okay, and snip. That's it. Our head's complete. Let's put this aside for now, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to make all the other pieces as well, and we'll assemble them all together at the very end. Okay, so while we still have our green yarn out, or our body color, let's continue actually just with the body. Let's get going with the body. So we are going to start with a magic ring. And for round 1, we are going to put 8 single crochet into the magic ring. Okay, for round 2, we're going to increase all the way around. Ring's doing something weird. There we go. Okay, for round number 3, we're going to single crochet 1 and then increase. And repeat that all the way around. It's supposed to be an increase. Okay. I'm gonna stop here for a second and secure my tail. I'm not gonna do it slow. Excuse me, not gonna do it slow this time because I kind of talked my way through it the first time, but we're just gonna secure it the exact same way that we did with the head. Okay, so round number 4, we're gonna work single crochet 3, and then increase. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, and round number 5, we are going to single crochet around. So this pattern is going to be worked for the belly, I guess, the body. We're working from the belly up towards the neck. So right now we're working the bottom of Yoshi. And basically did it that way so that we didn't have to sew the tail on as well and have that like segmented look for the tail. So the tail is going to be worked actually right after this round. We're going to start extending the tail out, which is kind of cool. One less thing to sew. Okay, so that's it. So we are going to start round 6 now. We start this with a chain 4. So keep your chains tight, just like that. And we can get rid of our stitch marker because we're going to change our starting position. So starting in the second chain from the hook, so this is our working loop, first chain, second chain. We are going to work a single crochet, and that's going to be the new starting stitch of the round. So we can mark that one. We're going to work a single crochet into the next chain. I personally work under the 2 bars of the chain. You can work under 1 if you want to. Okay. And in the third chain, we're going to work an increase. And then to connect it back to the body, we're going to slip stitch into kind of like the base of where we're coming out of here. So right in here, where the stitch is worked into from the previous round, we're going to slip stitch in there. That just gets rid of the gap. Okay. Now into the body, we are going to work an increase. And then we're going to single crochet 28 around. Okay, 28. So that brings us back to basically the stitch where we worked our chains from. Okay, so in that last stitch there, we're going to work an increase. And now all that's left are the chains. So for the chains, we're going to work an increase and a single crochet 2. If you would like to, you can just basically work them into the other side of the loop here, right? So inserting into that loop and working across. I personally don't like doing that because you can create these like little gaps where the chains come apart. My stitches are actually quite tight, so you probably wouldn't see it. That's not a good example, but you can see my finger through there. So I kind of have a little cheat. So I insert into the stitch directly across. I'll show you what that looks like. So I have my single crochet 2 and increase here, right? So those are my 4 stitches. So those are the 4 that I'm going to work into from the other side. So basically I'm inserting under the same 2 loops you would with the stitch, but I'm working it from this side. Does that make sense? So you can see here my whole stitch has basically crossed over the entire chain. It doesn't do anything to this side. I still have my 2 bars to work from over here, but it basically eliminates that gap. So I'll show you again. So my next one goes into this stitch. Okay. And work it as normal. Single crochet. Okay, same thing into the next and into the next. So I basically worked my increase single crochet 2 there. And that's what we look like. So this is actually the outside of my work. So you can see here that we are definitely not gappy, which is awesome. So there's my pro tip, my other pro tip for the day. Okay, so let's continue on. Round number 7, we're going to single crochet around. So now we've created a whole like larger round than what we started off with because we extended with that chain 4. So now when we work around, we're going all the way around the whole thing. Only thing that doesn't count as a stitch is this slip stitch that we did in here. So we're just going to go right from a single crochet to a single crochet. So we work our 4 down the tail. And skip that slip stitch and go directly into the next single crochet. That's really the only tricky part. Okay, and then we'll just continue working around. All right, round number 8 is where we're going to start shaping the tail. So we're going to start with 3 decreases. So that was 1. 2 and 3. Oh, my dog's gonna start clicky clacky around me. Single crochet 28 around. Okay, and then we're going to end off with 3 decreases. Okay, I'm gonna take my sweater off. I'm getting a little toasty under my spotlight here. All right, we're gonna keep shaping our tail. So we're gonna go to round number 9. It also starts with another 3 decreases. Okay, then we're going to single crochet 4, and decrease, single crochet 10, okay, and then we're going to do another decrease, single crochet 4, and then finish off with our 3 decreases. With all these decreases working on top of each other, this is really important to make sure that you have a decrease technique where you're not getting like gappy holes. So if you're finding around this point in time that it's starting to look like really holy and kind of weird looking in through here, if you go back to when I was showing you decreases on the head, if you change your technique to what I'm doing, that'll solve your problem there, okay? Okay, round number 10. So we're going to do a decrease 2. And single crochet 3. Okay, and then a decrease. Single crochet 8. And then a decrease. Single crochet 3. And a decrease 2. Just gonna say, working the tail is probably one of the most awkward parts of the whole project. So if it feels awkward to you, it is awkward. This is definitely the weirdest part. But it doesn't last very long. We're actually almost done. with the weird part anyways. So this is kind of how we're shaping up here. Yes, it looks like that until you stuff it, and then when it comes out, it kind of shapes up nicely. Okay, so it's kind of what it looks like here, a little like a ducktail. We are going to work a decrease. The beginning of round number 11. Single crochet 6. Okay, decrease 2. Single crochet 6. And a decrease. Okay, now we're going to single crochet 4. And decrease. Single crochet 4. And decrease. And single crochet 4. Round number 13, single crochet 3. And decrease. Single crochet 4. What did I do? Single crochet 4, is that what I said? Yep, single crochet 4 and a decrease. Single crochet 3. See, now that we've got past the awkward part, you can see that we've got like the right shape coming in here now. And we're actually almost done the body, which is awesome. We have 2 more rounds to go. Actually, the next 2 rounds are super easy. So round 14 and 15, we're just going to single crochet around. Okay, so that is it for the body. Let's finish it off with 2 slip stitches, just to kind of even out our round here. Okay, and then cut yourself a tail. This is going to be used to sew onto the head, so give yourself an extra long tail. And then we can fasten off here. Okay, you can stuff now or you can stuff it later. I am going to add some stuffing now, just to say that I did. And then we'll finish it off later when we go to attach it to the head. Obviously just making sure that we're putting enough fluff into the tail to kind of spread out those stitches. Now, again, just like I mentioned with the head, because we are going to be sewing a body panel all the way to the tail, your body doesn't have to be super, super firm because we're going to be adding that extra structure with that panel. So you still kind of want somewhat squishy. And I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's what we're looking like here on both sides. Let's set this aside now and move on to the next piece. Okay, next on my list is the arms. So I'm gonna make one on camera, but you need to make 2. Let's make 2 of these. We are gonna start with our magic ring again. And we are going to single crochet 6 into the ring. Okay, then we're going to single crochet around. Okay, I'm just going to secure my magic ring here. Okay, come to the right side here. And we are going to single crochet 1 to start. And then decrease and repeat that one more time. Bringing it down to 4 total stitches in the round. Not my favorite, I know. But his arms are so skinny. Working around to 4 is probably like one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't enjoy it. Here we go. Okay, so I'm in the same boat as you. The next 3 rounds are just single crochet around. Okay, so basically a total of 12 single crochet here. Before actually I get going on this, we're not going to stuff this, just so you know, so you don't have to try to squeeze any stuffing in there. I don't even think it would fit if you tried. Okay. For the last round, we're just going to fold it in half and single crochet across. I'm going to get rid of this tail here. We don't need that anymore. And yes, we're just going to single crochet everything together here. So basically insert into the next stitch and the stitch that you're currently in. There we go. And stitch those two together. And then the last two stitches, put them together as well. And that's it. So I'll fasten off with a tail for sewing onto the body later. And that's it for the arms. So again, make sure we have 2 of those and we'll set those aside as well. Okay, next we are gonna work, I'm gonna call them the eye ridges, kind of like the bumps at the top of his head. So this is gonna be worked in 2 different parts. Let me get back centered here. There we go. So let's start with a magic ring. And we are going to single crochet 6 into the magic ring. Okay, whoops. And in round number 2, we're going to do single crochet 2. There we go. So there we go, single crochet 2 and then increase. And repeat that. Single crochet 2 and then increase. Okay, and that's actually it for the first ridge. So we are going to slip stitch and fasten off. When you fasten off for this one, it doesn't have to be a long tail, but still give yourself a bit of a tail. We're going to use that for just sewing down the little tiny gap that happens when you add the 2 ridges together. Okay, and while I'm at it, we're just going to secure the ring. Okay, good. And pop it the right way out. Good, we'll come back to that in just a second. Let's start our second eye ridge. And it is started the exact same way. So we have our magic ring. The 6 single crochet. And in round number 2, we have our 2 single crochet and increase repeated. Okay, good. Now, before I go any further, again, we're going to be doing a lot of this through this pattern. We're going to secure our ring. So now go ahead, grab your other eye ridge piece that we just fastened off. We're going to put them together now. So we are going to start in the one we're currently in, so single crochet 1, and that is still going to be our starting stitch. So let's put our marker in there, and then we're going to bring this guy over. So we are going to work starting in this eye here. Doesn't really matter what stitch you start in. We're going to work 1 single crochet, just like that. So they're joined. Okay, another single crochet and then an increase. Okay, another single crochet 2 and increase, and single crochet 2. This stitch is the slip stitch, so we're going to go right. Like that. And now we are going to come back and start working in the rest of the original. So we're going to single crochet 2. So skip the one where our marker's in it. Okay, we've already worked in here, so go into the next stitch. 1, 2, and then an increase, single crochet 2, and then increase, and single crochet 1. So now we've joined them together. We are just going to pause here for a second and just sew up the little hole that is kind of in the middle here. So with our tail that we've kind of given ourselves, let's sew that together. I'm just going to whip stitch it. So into one side and into the other side. And I'm going to go through that spot twice. Make sure it's really secure. And I'm going to do one more stitch over here. Still a bit of a gap. And this will pull it all together. Perfect. And that's it. I'm just going to fasten this off against one of the other yarn tails that I have in here. So we'll just tie these off together. Not too snug where it pulls anything out of shape. But that's it. Okay. Cut that short. And that's it. So now all the way around from this marker all the way back, that is our new round. So let's finish this up now. We are going to single crochet around. Okay, round number 5, we're going to start with a decrease. Single crochet 8. And then we're going to repeat that. So another decrease. And single crochet 8. that is basically it. So let's go ahead. We are going to do, to fasten off, we're going to do 2 slip stitches. So 1 and then in the next stitch. Okay, and that just evens out our round again. And we will fasten off with a nice long tail for sewing onto the head. And that's it. We have our eye ridges. Moving right along, we're going to grab our white yarn. We're going to work our cheeks. So for this, we are going to be making 2 cheeks. I'm just going to do 1 cheek on video. So we are going to start with our surprise, surprise magic ring. And we are going to do 8 single crochet. There we go. And then we're going to increase all the way around. If I can get in there. There we go. And that is actually it for the cheek. So we're going to do 2 slip stitches. And fasten off. Again, give yourself a good tail because we're going to be using that to sew the cheek onto the face. And also, can't forget, since we have a magic ring here, that we need to secure this one as well. Okay, and that's it for the cheek. Next, we're going to go ahead and make the shell. So I have my red yarn for this. We're going to start with our magic ring. And we are going to do 6 single crochet. Okay, round number 2, we're going to increase around. And in round 3, we're going to single crochet around. Okay, and that's it for the red. So for this one, we're gonna actually fasten off completely and not do a regular color change. So let's do a slip stitch and fasten off. You don't need a long tail for this one because we're not gonna use the red to sew. Okay, let's secure our ring, and then we'll be grabbing our white yarn to finish off. Kind of like the embellishment around the outside of the shawl. Okay, good. I'm actually going to tie these together on the inside. Keeping my tension kind of loose because I don't want it to be pulling my shell out of shape. There we go. And my yarn tails are actually long enough that they'll probably actually just double as my shell stuffing when it's all done. Okay, so let's grab our white yarn, get rid of the red, and we will attach our white yarn anywhere. It doesn't matter what stitch you start in. Okay, give yourself just a little bit of a tail to start so you can tie it off nicely. And we will just chain one to secure. Now, starting in the same stitch where we just added our yarn, we're going to work a single crochet, another single crochet, and then an increase. Okay, that doesn't look like an increase, but it is. I went through where I ended off my stitch and then the slip stitch, same thing. Okay, so single crochet 2 and an increase, two, and an increase. And then 2 and an increase. Okay, and there is our shell all done. We're going to fasten this off with a good size tail for sewing onto the body later. And instead of doing a slip stitch and fasten, I'm going to do an invisible join on this one. So to do that, let's pull our loop all the way out. Grab your needle. And we're going to create basically a false stitch. So we are going to be going over not our first stitch, but our second stitch. You're going to go under both loops. Okay. And then coming back, it's hard to tell because everything's all white, but this is the stitch where we ended off in with our fasten off. So not the first loop, go through only the back loop of that stitch. And essentially we've just created a fake stitch on top of like the first stitch of the round. Okay, so it doesn't have like a bubble or anything around it. It looks nice. And then I just come through and work into the back of that skipped stitch to basically pull it all together. And that is it. It's all secure. I'm going to tie these off together, and then we'll use that long yarn tail for sewing onto the body later. I'm going to leave all these tails attached. I'm just going to use it as my stuffing for the shell, but if you don't have a lot of tails like I do, you can always add stuffing in after. But that's it. There's our shell. Now grabbing our orange yarn, we're going to be working the spikes at the back of the head. So you're going to need 3 spikes. I'm just going to show one of them on camera. So we are going to start with our magic ring. And single crochet 5 into the ring. Okay, in round 2, we're going to start with our single crochet. We're going to do 4 single crochet. And then an increase. Okay, secure. Okay, fold the right way out. It doesn't want to, but it will. There we go. And we are just going to stitch across now. So we can cut this a little short, stuff it inside, and we're going to work into the next stitch and the one that we're currently in, and we're going to single crochet those 2 together. Just like that. Okay, so there's 1. 2. And 3. And that's it. There's our spikes. So go ahead, fasten that off with a tail for sewing. And we will set those aside as well. Okay, now for the colorful pieces, we are going to be starting with, this is for the foot, sorry. We're going to be starting with the base of the shoe, so like the sole, which is yellow on our green Yoshi. So let's start here. We're going to be doing it instead of a magic ring, imagine that. We're going to be starting with a slip knot. So I do my slip knot like this, whatever works for you. Okay. Now we are going to start with a chain 6. Keep your chains snug. Okay. And starting in the second chain from the hook. So remember, this is our loop. First chain, second chain. So we're in here. Single crochet. And we will add our stitch marker to that stitch. Okay, 3 more single crochet on the way down. Okay, here it's a little stuck. There we go. And then into the last chain, we're going to work 3 single crochet. Okay, and then on the way back, we're going to work another 3 single crochet. You can work them just into the loops on the edge there, or you can use my trick where you kind of work into the stitch on the other side. So same way how we worked the body. So I'll show you again. So we know that our 3 single crochet here are worked into the last stitch. So this is the next one with the single crochet working down the line. So let's insert into that one. And that's how we cross our stitches again to make sure there's no gaps. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and 3. And then into the last one, we're going to single crochet 2. One and 2. Okay, so that's what we look like now. In round number 2, we're going to increase, single crochet 3, work 3 increases, okay, single crochet 3, and then 2 increases. Okay, on that last stitch of the increase, we're going to do a color change. So don't yarn over and pull through to finish. Just leave it like that. You can cut your yellow yarn. And we are going to move to orange for the boot. Okay, so let's complete our color change and tie off our ends. Perfect. I always throw the extra knot in there. Oops. Because I get paranoid about my knots coming apart. There we go. Okay, so in our first stitch, we're going to do a slip stitch here. And that's going to help us hide our color change. And I'll show you what I mean when we work our next round. Okay, so slip stitch, and then the rest is single crochet around. Okay. Round number 5, we're going to single crochet around, but in this first stitch here that is a slip stitch, we are going to work into not the top 2 loops, but we're going to work into the same stitch that the slip stitch is worked into. So insert in there and work your single crochet right on top of the slip stitch. And you can see here that it like completely hides the color change. Okay, and then we're going to continue around with our single crochet. Okay, now let's start shaping our shoe. So in round number 6, we're going to single crochet 4. I'm going to decrease 4. Okay, single crochet 4, and end with a decrease. Round number 7, single crochet 2, and decrease 4 again. Just get this all inside there. Okay, and finish with a single crochet 3. Okay, round number 8, we're going to single crochet 3, decrease, and single crochet 4. Okay, round number 9, we're going to single crochet around. Feel free to start stuffing your shoe anytime. I'm going to do mine very shortly. Okay, and on the last stitch there, we are going to be changing our color. So let's snip off our yarn. And we're going to be joining to our body color. So for me, that's green. Okay. And we will join our ends here in a knot. Okay, and I think now is a good time. I'm going to start stuffing my boot now. Okay, making sure it gets all the way into the toes. Okay. Just a little bit more. Okay, let me just compare it to my other boot that I've already made. Yes, they're the same. Okay, perfect. So continuing on with green, I'm just gonna stick these ends inside the shoe. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with our color change. So we are going to do a slip stitch here to start. Okay, and then single crochet around. Okay, round number 11, we're going to single crochet around, but remember when we're working into the slip stitch, to minimize the color, we're not going to go through the top loops, we're going to go into the stitch that it's worked into and just work on top of it. Okay, round number 12, we are going to expand out a little bit. So we're going to single crochet 1 and increase, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. Okay. In round number 13, we're going to single crochet around. Okay, and then in the next round, we're just going to decrease all the way around. I'm just going to pull out my other foot that I have made here. So I haven't actually, I couldn't remember, I didn't put any fluff into the ankle area. Stuffed the boots to like a nice, you know, firmness. And then up here in the thigh, there actually really isn't any stuffing in here to make it firm. It's really just to stop it from like collapsing in on itself. So I am going to add a tiny, tiny bit of fluff after the next round. I just wanted to give you a bit of a heads up because it's going to end up with 6 stitches. So if you need to stuff it just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, you can do it right now as well. Otherwise, let's close this off. So we need 6 decreases. In the first Yoshi that I made, the blue one I showed at the beginning of the video, I didn't actually have any fluff at all in the leg. It was only in the shoe. And it holds its shape really, really well on its own. I just noticed on one of them, it just kind of seemed to cave in just a little bit around the thigh. So I figured, oh, I'll just add a tiny, tiny bit this time around. Okay, so let's fasten off. Give yourself a tail for sewing. Okay, and now I'm just gonna add in my little bit of fluff. And I think, is that it? That was actually it. So it's just maybe like the tiniest bit more. It's honestly just to help it not collapse in on itself. Yeah, that feels good. Okay, let's close up the leg. So the same way that we did with the head, we're gonna sew this shut. So from the top down in the next stitch. Okay, and the bottom up, top down. Okay, bottom up all the way around. Okay, and we're going to secure it just by weaving around that circle one more time. Okay, and I'm going to leave it just at that for the leg. Okay, it looks good. Let's finish off the boot. We just have to work a little tiny cuff. So let's grab our orange one last time. And this is super easy. So at the back of the boot, we are going to insert right through where the color changes are and basically just cover them up even more with our boot cuff. So just like that, add our yarn, give yourself a bit of a tail for knotting off after. Okay, chain one to secure. And we're just going to surface crochet all the way around. So we're going to insert into the next bit of color change just like that. Okay, and do a loose single crochet, not tight. We don't want it to be pulled out of position. Okay, just like that. And I think this goes without saying, but you need to make 2 legs. And that is my last one, actually. Is it? Yep. Perfect. Cut that off. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make a fake stitch here, just like we did with the, what did we close off with the invisible join? The shell. But instead this time, instead of reaching over one stitch to go to the next one, I'm actually just going to join it into the next stitch here. The angle's too far basically for that one, so let's go into this guy. It pulls it nicely shut. Back loop of the stitch we just came from. Perfect. And that's it. So I'm going to pull this through and up into the same stitch that our other yarn tail is coming from, and I'm just going to tie them together. And that is it. Let me give it one more. Let's sink those yarn tails back into the boot. And trim off our excess. And our boots are done. All right, now before we make our belly panel, which is the final piece that we need to make with the bulky yarn, that is actually going to be attaching straight to the body. So let's make our eyes first, and then we can set those aside. So grab your worsted weight white yarn and your 4mm crochet hook, and let's work the eye. So we are going to start with a magic ring. And we are going to work 10 half double crochet into the ring. Okay, I think I have 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Okay, pull that tight. And then into the first half double crochet there, we're going to work our half double crochet increase. Grab my stitch marker here. Okay, so 2 half double crochet into the same stitch. Then we're going to work a double crochet increase. So 2 double crochet into the same stitch. Okay, and then 2 more double crochet increases. Now I crochet quite tight. You can see my stitches are really close together. If you find that your stitches are a little bit more loosey-goosey than mine, feel free to downsize your crochet hook to get a nice like snug stitch in here, okay? Otherwise it may not fit on your eye ridges. Okay, so now we're gonna do 2 half double crochet increases. Okay, and then we're going to work 3 more of the double crochet increases. I'm not sure how good my microphone is on my phone, but my toddler is just in the other room. I have the door closed, but you might be able to hear some of his like music going off. Okay, and then in the last stitch here, we're going to do another half double crochet increase. Okay, just like that. I'm going to finish this off with a seamless finish. Give yourself a good tail. I put a good tail on both of my eyes, even though you're only going to need one tail to sew it together, but you might as well just have more than enough, you know? Okay. Let's do our seamless finish. So we are going to skip over the first stitch. Oh, come a little closer here. Skip over the first stitch, go into the second through both loops. Okay, and then back to the stitch where we came from and just go through the back loop. Since it's a half double crochet, I'm actually going to go through the one in the very back as well, just to make it extra secure. Okay, and then that's it. Just gonna come back through here. And here we go. So there's one of our eyes. We have this like crazy hole in the middle, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten that up. It was tight and then it came loose. Okay. But that's why we secure it. So let's go all the way around our circle. I can tell in my magic ring that the yarn didn't seat 100%. It didn't want to pull all the way through, but that's okay. As I weave through, it will keep it shut. And then I'm going to go ahead and just secure it with a knot against my other yarn tail. Okay, and that's it. So let's set this aside for now. I'm not going to attach any pupils until we attach both of our eyes together. So I will show you that in the assembly step. So for now, just make 2 of these. Alrighty, now we're back to the bulky weight yarn and our 8mm hook. We are going to work our, I believe this is our last piece that we need before we start assembling. So we're going to make our belly panel now. So we're going to need white, and we're going to start this off with a slip knot. Give yourself a decent tail to start, because we are going to use just a little bit of this tail to attach a small part of the head. to the body. Okay, so go ahead and start your slip knot, and I've got my tail here. And we're going to start with a chain 3. Okay, starting in the second chain from the hook, we're going to single crochet 2. And we're going to be working this in rows, so not rounds. So every time we come to the end there, we're going to do a chain 1 and turn. Okay, so now we're going to do number 3, single crochet and increase. Chain 1 and turn, row 4, single crochet, increase, and single crochet, chain 1 and turn, row 5, single crochet 1, increase, single crochet 2, chain 1 and turn, row 6, single crochet 1, increase, and single crochet 3, chain 1 and turn, row 7, single crochet 2, increase, single crochet 3, chain 1 and turn, row 8, single crochet 2, increase, single crochet 4, chain 1 and turn. Now rows 9, 10, 11, and 12 are going to be single crochet 8, chain 1 and turn. Okay, so 4, is it 4 rows? 1, 2, yes, 4 rows of just single crochet. Okay, so our panel looks like this now. Row number 13, we are going to single crochet 3, decrease, single crochet 3, chain 1 and turn, Row 14 is single crochet across. Chain 1 and turn. Row 15, single crochet 3, decrease, single crochet 2, chain 1 and turn. Row 16 is single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. Row 17, single crochet 2, decrease, single crochet 2, chain 1 and turn. Row 18, single crochet 5, okay, chain 1 and turn. Row 19, single crochet 1, decrease, single crochet 2, chain 1 and turn. Number 20 is single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. 21 is single crochet 1. Oh, whoops. Decrease. My yarn just fell off my table. And single crochet 1. Chain 1 and turn. Number 22, single crochet across. Chain 1 and turn. Number 23, single crochet 1. Got a weird little fuzz there. And decrease. Chain 1 and turn. Number 24, single crochet 2. Chain 1 and turn. Number 25, same thing actually. Single crochet 2. Chain 1 and turn. Number 26 is a decrease in the only 2 stitches that we have. Okay, chain 1 and turn, and number 27 is single crochet 1. Okay, so this is our panel that we've created. We are not going to fasten off here though. We're going to continue by working a border all the way around. And once we get to this end of the panel, we're going to actually attach it directly to the body. So have that handy as well. Alrighty, so in order to work our border, we're just going to do a chain 1 here, okay? And we are going to work 1 single crochet into the edge of every round, okay? So luckily this yarn is very forgiving. So if you end up missing one by accident, it's really not that big of a deal. But basically this is the edge of a round where it kind of sticks out like this. It's 1, And then where there's like a pocket hole, there's another one. Okay, so you're just alternating all the way down. Kind of in my head, I run edge, pocket, all the way down. So that's how we're looking there. It should basically lay flat for you and not be crumpling up on the edges. If it's starting to crumple and like really like come together, you're probably missing some stitches and bunching it up by accident. Okay, now I am back to the very beginning. Okay, so, oh, I didn't work into the side of this one. Sorry, now I'm back to the very beginning. So my next move would be to basically work into the top 2 stitches that we started off with. Remember, we did a chain 3 and then a single crochet 2, so 1, 2. But instead of just working directly into that, we're going to be joining this to the front of the belly. I found this was the easiest way to make sure that your belly is lining up straight and centered all the way down. It's kind of has like an anchoring point. So take a look at your body. If you haven't stuffed it already, start stuffing it now so you can see how it sits. Okay, so essentially this is how our body is sitting. If you take a look, for me, looking at the stitches up here, I kind of have 1 center stitch as opposed to, I'm looking for 2 stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach 1 single crochet in here to this one. I'm going to skip the center and then move to the next one. So I'm going to be working into these 2. I'm just going to mark them for you so you can see them better as I go. Okay, so into the first top stitch in my panel, I'm going to slip stitch it to this one. So just like this, and slip stitch, not a single crochet. Okay, into the next stitch at the top, I'm going to insert into my other marked stitch. And we are going to slip stitch it together as well. So you can see here, you really don't have to worry about that stitch that we skipped. It kind of just gets all scrunched in together. If you had 2 center stitches based off your tension, it's a little shifted to the side compared to mine. If you only had 2 center stitches, then just go through those 2. But since I had 3, obviously I just skipped the center one. Okay, now leave this tail out here. We're going to use it for when we're attaching to the head. It's just going to sew through this like white part. And let's just continue back down the other side of our panel. So again, 1 single crochet into the edge of every row. Again, I just kind of worked the pattern that way because I don't particularly enjoy sewing large pieces together, and having this like floating belly panel, trying to keep it centered seemed really daunting. So this kind of helps anchor it at one point, and then you really just need to anchor it to the second point, and then you can just kind of sew together from there. So it kind of makes it foolproof, and I like foolproof. Okay, and I am back to the very tip here into our last stitch. Remember how we ended off row number 27 with a single crochet 1? I am just going to single crochet 3 into the tip there. Okay, and then that is it. Let's fasten off. Give yourself like an excessive long tail because we are going to be stitching using that tail all the way up one side and all the way back down the other. If by any chance you ended up obviously not like giving yourself enough of a tail, it's really not the end of the world. You can always just cut yourself another piece of yarn and sew through with 2 pieces of yarn. Okay. And you can end this off with a slip stitch if you want to. I probably will just do that. Here we go. We don't really need an invisible finish because we're going to be tacking everything down with our sewing. Okay, so that's what we look like there. And then you can see as we come through, I can tell that my white yarn was slightly bigger than my green yarn. So my belly panel is actually just a little bit too big, but that's okay. When we sew it together, it'll be fine. So it should fit nicely just underneath the tail. Now let's, let's work on sewing that together now so we can have this panel completely finished. All right, now just for the purpose of sewing together, I'm just gonna tuck all of these yarn tails just inside the body for now, except for the one that I'm gonna be using, so they're not getting tangled on each other. There we go. So now I only have 1 yarn tail to work with. Grab your needle. Let's add it on. If you have some toothpicks or something else you can use to tack it in place, that would be very helpful at this point. So let's kind of position here. So we have our front of our body. It's going to fold all the way and the bottom of the tail comes all the way up just to the tip of the tail like that. Okay, so I'm going to just tack this in place with my needle at the tip of the tail, and then I will come back with my toothpicks. There we go. Okay, or what I'm using as toothpicks. A bunch of these like silly little needles that I don't really like. Okay, so this position, I like this here. And now as you're tacking this in place, you'll see why I wanted to have this secured at the top, because it makes it so much easier to get the rest of it in place. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to speed up most of this sewing, but just a few tips as you get started. Go slow, be patient. I find normally with sewing pieces together like this, it only ends up becoming lopsided because you're like rushing it. And I get it. It's hard to stay patient with something like this. That's like not as fun. But be patient with it, put on a good show, and just slow and steady. Okay. Fortunately, as you're sewing together with blanket yarn, it sinks in really nicely. So you don't really see the seam very well. Just pull it nice and snug. So you can see you can't really see my sewing seam. Now when I'm going into the body, I'm not coming all the way into the body like this because you'll be able to see that stripe. I'm basically tucking it kind of underneath the stitch where I came from and then coming up into the next. And I'm gonna speed it up from here. If I have anything else important to say, I'll slow it down, but otherwise, enjoy the sewing. All right, so I'm gonna pause here for a second. This is what we've done so far. It's looking perfect. When we get to the top here, we don't have to sew the top into anything just because obviously we've already attached it. All I'm going to do, even though it's not 100% necessary, but if you watch enough of my videos, you know I like to attach everything, 100 times over. I'm gonna sink this tail into the body. This is a weird needle. Never actually use it as a needle. Okay. I'm just gonna sink this into the inside of the body. I'm gonna tie these two tails off together. Almost like just for fun, but I'll never turn down an opportunity to tie some ends together. In my mind, it just kind of breaks up seaming one side from the other. I'm going to leave this tail again. So again, that's going to be used for sewing the head. And then I'm just going to continue off with the same yarn tail that I've been using, and I'm going to finish seaming up the other side now. Okay, we are just coming to the end here, working the last stitches. Kind of just making sure that my final single crochet 3, or right about around there, ends up at the tip of the tail. I mentioned briefly, I think in the last clip, that my bottom piece, I think my yarn was just slightly thicker for the white than it was for the green, which happens. So it seemed like my white panel was going to be too big, but it actually ended up working out perfectly. So I'll take that. That's a win. Here we go. Okay, and that is it. I'm just going to bring up this yarn tail here. You can choose to either weave it through some of the white on the belly panel, or if you like to, you can leave this tail here for now and tie it off against the shell that we're attaching pretty soon. I'm gonna do that one. So I'm gonna wait for the shell to be attached, so I'm actually not gonna fasten off this one just yet. I'm just gonna leave it hanging out there. But anyway, so take that out of there for now, is what it looks like. So we still have this white tail for attaching the head, which we'll be putting it on soon. Basically just for lining up this part underneath the chin. We want all the whites to match up. And then obviously at the back end of the tail, we've brought it all the way up to the tip. All right, let's move on to the next piece. Okay, so next up we are going to sew our shell onto the back. So to get our shell on there, basically what we're going to be doing is having it kind of get squished into place, kind of like halfway between the tip of the tail and the top of the neck. Okay, so it doesn't really look like it's going to fit at the moment, but it will as we start sewing. I just realized that I'm not all the way through a stitch here. Let's get into a stitch properly. There we go. Okay, and I've just kind of stuffed it with the yarn tails that I had going on and everything, but feel free to add stuffing if you need to. Okay, and again, I'm going to use my fake little sticks here. Obviously we want it centered between the neck and the tail, and we're just going to kind of keep this in place as we go. Okay, So as you're stitching, we want the shell to be lying flat. I didn't mean to come all the way through the stitch. Sorry. We want the shell to be kind of lying flat, but we want this like rim to be facing out. So we're not going to be stitching like through the stitches into the body. We're actually going to be picking up basically through here. So where you can see the stitch of the white meeting the red. Let me center that a little bit for you. That's where we're going to be stitching into the body. Okay, so actually I'll just come up through these ones to start. And that way we can still get the look that we're going for, where it looks like the edges of the shell are just kind of like sitting on the body. Okay, so again, coming up through here. Okay, so then you can see there, right? Okay, so I'm gonna speed up the video and I'll meet you back here when it's all done. Alrighty, so we've gone all the way around. That is such an awkward sew on, but that's what we look like there. Okay, so we're still centered to the back. Got a nice little pop up here, and we are still between obviously the tail and the head, so that's perfect. I mentioned that I was going to tie off between these two tails, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And basically just creating an anchor here before I tie them together. Here we go. And I'll do a third. And that's it. Let's sink this into the body, and then we can trim off the excess. Okay, so that's how we look. Let's move on to the next piece. Okay, so next we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna sew the head in place. For the head positioning, so kind of have this extra fade down to the chin for the reason basically so we know how to position. The two color changes on the sides are the indicator of basically the sides of the head. Okay, that's where we'll be putting our cheeks. This is the bottom of the head. So when you are positioning, you want the head to basically be facing forward, like straight ahead, right? So there shouldn't be any white showing at the very back. The sewing should be going at the back of the neck, right up to the color change there. And then you can see here at the front where we're gonna be sewing into the neck. That's what this yarn tail has been hanging out here for the whole time, is we're gonna use that just to sew the last couple stitches in the front of the neck. So it's pretty straightforward. It's basically just making sure, the trickiest part is making sure that the cheeks end up on exactly the sides. But luckily, since we're going to be sewing our cheeks on top as well, there is some give kind of thing. So if you're off just a little bit to the side, chances are it's going to get covered with the sewing the cheeks. So try to make it foolproof. So let's go ahead and speed this up, and I'll meet you back here. Oh, also, I forgot to mention as well, make sure, because I see it on mine, make sure that your neck is also stuffed nice and tight as well, because you don't want the head to be wobbly. We're sewing across so many stitches that you're likely not going to be wobbly, but you know, again, you still want that to be secure. So I'm going to reinforce my neck right now. Go lay down, Coda. Go lay down. Good boy. Okay, so my head is secured. Since I have 2 yarn tails here, I'm going to tie them off against each other to secure. I'm just going to make them a little smaller and more manageable. Okay, if you've already fastened off tails as you go, that's totally fine as well. If you don't tie them against each other, you can just weave them back and forth in that zigzag pattern I showed you before for weaving in ends. That's perfectly fine too. Okay, now with all of the stuffing and everything that you put in there, his neck should be very secure. There shouldn't be any wobble, especially stitching across the 12 stitches on the neck. But that is what we should look like here, kind of with that seamless color change. Okay. Now in sticking with the face, we're going to work with the cheeks next. For positioning our cheeks, kind of feel around for the best spot. I'm going to go roughly about 1 or 2, we'll have like 1 visible stitch between the bottom of the head and the cheek, so like this. And you want to push the cheek up to the nose as much as possible. So then when it sits there, it's basically like front and center on the side of the cheek, just a little bit lower down. Okay, so I'm going to position it, like I said, with 1 visible stitch here and rolling it as close to the nose as we can. It gets a little awkward sewing around the nose, so just be patient with it. And as I sew this guy, I'm going to do it just like I did with the bottom panel. So you are going to be sewing around the full stitch. You want this cheek to be seated into the face as opposed to like sitting on top of it. So that looks like this through the whole cheek. Okay, and go ahead, get those in place for both cheeks. And I will meet you back here when I'm done and I'll show you what they both look like. Okay, so that is what we look like with both cheeks finished. I did my best to, maybe better to see from the back end here, to keep them level on the head. They actually turned out pretty good. That's kind of what I meant when I said that do your best to keep it centered, but if your head was sewn on a little bit of a tilt, the cheeks kind of make it forgiving for you. So that looks good. From the bottom end, it looks pretty seamless. So I'm happy with how that turned out. Let's move on to the next part. We're going to do the arms. So grab our arms here. These are a nice, easy sew on. So I can tell just by looking at how I sewed my shell, like the difference between the shell and the tummy, that it's definitely a little lopsided the way that I sewed mine on, but that is okay. We are just going to deal with it. So from the arm standpoint, we're going to leave 1 visible stitch showing above the arm. So we're going to be working into this row here. Okay, and I'm going to pick the stitch kind of like 1 stitch away from the tummy. So I'm going to come in under this one. And that will be the top front of my arm. And to secure, I go through the arm and the stitch twice. Arms always get a lot of tugging, especially from little kids, so I want to make sure it's nice and secure. And then for the second stitch of the arm, we're going to go in on a diagonal. So go 1 stitch over and 1 stitch down. And that is where we're going to sew this other half of our arm. And that way, when you're looking at it from the front, it wants to naturally, there we go, like come forward like that, which is perfect. Now go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, and again, we're just going to secure both of our yarn tails together. Here we go. And so that's how our arms look. Even though the shell was a little lopsided on the one side, it's honestly like not even that noticeable once the arms go on. So happy with how it looks. Okay, next part is the legs. We're getting so close to the end. I'm like, I have ants in my pants. For the legs, I'm gonna bring this guy in for a second. They are going to be positioned almost directly underneath the arms, and so that your Yoshi can sit all by himself. Okay, so that's what he looks like. I don't have enough space from the bottom. Okay, so basically be playing around with this just a little bit. Okay, but when you're sewing, you kind of want maybe one visible stitch roughly along the bottom between the side of the leg and the tail, kind of depending on how you sewed that belly panel in place. So again, kind of take that with a grain of salt. As you're sewing this in place, right, so I'm just gonna make sure that as he's sitting, I know it looks weird on screen, but as he's sitting, that's going to support him. It feels like it will, so happy with that position. As you're sewing, you're not going to be going between both sides of the leg. You're really just sewing from the bottom part around. So I'll show you guys what that looks like, and then I'll probably just do the rest of it off camera. My phone's running out of space as I film. Actually, well, maybe I'll sew one of them sped up, I think, and then I'll do the second one off camera. Okay, so just pushing into place, kind of flattening it out. We are just going to essentially whip stitch around, but again, just through the base of the leg. So I'm never coming up through the outside of it. And depending on how it kind of sews the first time around, I'll usually go around a second time and kind of double up on the stitches to make sure that it is nice and secure. Because it's kind of an awkward way of sewing things into place. Yeah, okay, good. So have patience with this one as you're working it. Just have patience with yourself, don't get frustrated. And I'll meet you back here when this one's done. Also going to mention, actually, just as a tip for pointers, because I feel like a lot of you guys are probably like sitting on the couch kind of lounging as you're making this. Sewing this part, because it can be kind of frustrating, I'm going to say using a flat surface to put pressure on it while you're sewing is super helpful. This isn't really one that I'd be like sitting relaxed on the couch doing. It gives you that extra leverage to keep it all in place. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, so the first one is done. He actually almost sits by himself now. Just obviously needs the other leg, but that's basically all it takes. So when I came around the bottom, I was only sewing through the green spot. Okay, none of the boot gets sewn in place. So double back when you're sewing the second one on, because obviously that's the most important piece to make sure that it is all evened up. Make sure you're checking from all angles, especially the bottom. Oh, there we go. Especially the bottom to make sure that these legs start at the same spot. And then you really can't go wrong. So go ahead, sew the other one back in place too, and I'll meet you back here. Alrighty, here's what we're looking at. Can't speak now. For the legs, so they're both in place. I did my best to kind of keep them in line with each other, starting at the back. And then they're on like a slight little slant down from the body so that the shoes basically balance him while he's sitting on his own against the rounded tummy. So happy with how that turned out. Let's move on. We only have a couple more things left, so we're gonna have to do the eyes and then sewing the spikes on, and then he's all done. So let's do some prep work on the eyes, and then we'll get going on sewing it onto the head. Okay, so for the eyes, I've just gone ahead and done a little prep work getting these stitch markers in place, but I'm gonna step you through it. So on the first eye, the left one, we are going to find, we have our half double crochet increase right here and right here. So you're gonna add your stitch markers to the first double crochet on one side and the first double crochet on the other side. So there should be 6 stitches in total. Okay, the ones that are not marked in the middle are all half double crochet. So that's the first one. Second one, it's a little bit different. We've kind of shifted down a little bit. So we have 2 half double crochet, 2 half double crochet, those are the increase ones. And then we've got 2 double crochet. So in the first half double crochet, mark it. And then these are all the half double crochet. We have 1 double crochet and 1 double crochet. So the second one, mark that. So when they are put together, they will be lined up. If you ended up using the same stitches on both sides, they end up shifting a little bit and looking like this and kind of wonky. So that's why we did it kind of weird like that. Now we are going to take, doesn't matter which one you take, grab a yarn tail, and we are going to sew through those stitch markers. I'm just going to bring my yarn tail up to that one. Okay, good. 1 and 1. Okay, I'm just gonna hold them flat. It's easier for me with the right sides facing each other on the inside there. Okay, and we're gonna whip stitch them together. Now, don't do it too tight. I can get rid of these markers now. You want it to be secure, but you also don't want it to be cinched up, if that makes sense. So just enough to keep it tight and together. I whip stitch twice into each one. You don't have to do twice if you don't want to. Okay, so that is what we look like on the other side. Perfect. Let's go ahead and just tie these off together nice and easy here. And then we don't have to worry about it coming undone. Okay, so now is the time to attach our safety eyes. So I have the 12mm safety eyes here. Looking at the ridges, so we have kind of one side with not as much of a dip in between the eyes, and then we have the side that has a more pronounced dip. The more pronounced dip is going to be the top of the eyes, and this will be the bottom. So however you want to align your pupils, I kind of play around with them a little bit to make sure that they line up. have a feeling that's going to be too high. Basically, I'm trying to place it into like the half double crochet around of the eye. That is a little goofy. I think that's going to be it. I'm like just double checking here. Okay, cool. So, so what I've done is I placed the safety eyes. You might be able to see it better from this side. Basically between some half double crochet stitches on both sides. Secure them. And now it's good to go. Let's grab our eye ridges and we are going to get these in place. Right now I have 2 yarn tails on the eyes. I am going to leave them both there. I'm not going to cut one off. I'm just going to sink one of them inside the eye ridges to use as a tie off for my sewing strand. Okay, oops. And now we are just going to position. So as we position onto our eye ridges, we want to make sure that we are still leaving these stitches along the bottom of the ridges available. So don't sew over them. We're going to be using those to attach to the head. So let's line up here. Okay. That looks pretty good to me. Basically, just make sure you're lining up through the ridges. Okay. Oh, I'm off camera a little bit. There we go. Happy with that. Now, as you're sewing, we are doing a whip stitch, but we're only going through the back loop only of our worsted. So I'll show you what that looks like. So as you're coming up, if I can get there we go. Just through the back loop only. What that does is that leaves the front loop to be able to create kind of like a nice border around the eyes, because we don't want the eyes to sink into the face, right? We want the eyes to be separated and like highlighted, you know what I mean? There we go, I slipped a little bit. Okay, so again, into the blanket yarn and up through the back loop only. What's nice as you sew through with worsted into blanket is that your stitches basically sink right into the yarn, so they're not very noticeable. And see, we've got a nice ridge, like definition happening here with the eyes. So I'm going to fast forward as we go, and then I'll meet you back here when it's all done. Okay, now let's tie these 2 tails off together. Just going to make sure that they're not coming out of the same stitch. They are not perfectly, so I can tie them together. Got a very like owl eye look going on at the moment. There we go. And I am gonna trim these tails off. Good. So that is what we look like. Kind of goofy. Let's sew this onto the head. Alrighty, so I've gone ahead and grabbed the head and we have obviously our eye ridges to sew in place here. So for placement, obviously it's going to be centered to the head. Now you can see here where we have our decreases from the nose and we start increasing back up to the head. Where we started increasing in here is where I'm kind of starting from. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be the furthest round that we're going to be stitching the eyes onto, like this. Okay, and that's really important. One, I mean, it looks good like that, but two, also because we need to have enough space to stitch on all of our spikes at the back. So I've just gone ahead and kind of marked it that way. If you want to use stitch markers, right, just to kind of let yourself know that that's as far as you can go, whatever works for you. Okay, and then also when we're positioning, we're going to be putting the eyes right up to the start of the nose. So that's how it's going to look there. Yes, it's going to be a little awkward sewing in there, but it'll be a quick sew. So obviously, knowing that we're kind of squishing in here from the front to the back, the positioning is very easy to figure out for the eyes. I'm just going to pin it in place here on one side and the other. Double check that I am centered. It looks like it. Let's get going. You are going to be stuffing these eye ridges as well as you go. I'm basically going to maybe go like halfway around and then stuff the inside. That's just my preference, but you can also stuff them now if you want. So this is as far as we're going in here. Oops. Okay. I hit my stand there, so I thought my phone was going to fall for a second. There we go. So now I know that's as far as I can go. And we are going to attach, just like most of our other pieces here, with a whip stitch. And I will see you back when it's all done. All right, so just finished sewing on the eyes. They turned out pretty good. Really cute. Let's go straight into sewing on the 3 spikes at the back of the head, and then we're done. Oh my goodness, can you believe it? I've been filming this video for like 2 days straight now, personally, so I am really excited to be almost done. And for however long you guys have been working on this as well, I'm sure you're going to be ready to be done as well. Okay, so for the spikes, we are going to start right at the base of the eye ridges. 1 stitch centered, or 2 stitches depending on how your placement is, centered to the back. And we are going to stitch, there's 3 stitches at the base of the spike. So you're going to be going through 3 separate stitches going down. Again, I just stitched through each one of these twice. I left my yarn tail there from the eye ridges just because I'm going to tie this tail off against it. If you don't have 1 stitch centered in the back to go through, you can go through 2 stitches as well to keep it centered as you go down. Okay, now I'm just going to show you for the next one. It's going to go, don't leave any gaps between. So you're going to go right into the next row here, okay, to add your next one. And all 3 spikes are worked the same way, so your next one's going to start right after the second one. Okay, I'll meet you back here when they're done. Okay, friends, as I just finish basically sinking these into the head and tying them off together, and we're almost done, so I can just kind of take this time to say thank you for following along. This was a really fun project, and I know obviously there's a lot more sewing than I normally include in my patterns. It's just one of those, you know, like necessities sometimes where when you have all these details and odd shapes, especially like these legs, they just have to be sewn on. There really is no other option. So I appreciate your patience through the pattern. I hope you guys enjoy making your own. And my husband always reminds me to tell you guys that I make new videos every Thursday. Most of them are free patterns like this one. So if you subscribe to the channel and you hit the notifications, then obviously you get notified when new videos come up, and you can follow along with me every time a new video comes out. Oh my goodness, we're down to our last couple of yarn tails here. And then I'm going to prop my Yoshi up. I'm going to change the angle of the camera a little bit so that you can get a better look at him from the front. And so I can get a better look at him from the front. I know the top-down view is not always the nicest. And then we can celebrate all together that we just finished this massive project. I know that there's a lot of like new crocheter, like beginner crocheters as well that follow along with a lot of these tutorials. So if you tried your hand at this, then I would love to hear from you guys in the comments, and I really hope that you enjoy your finished project. But of course, I love hearing back from anybody that's tried the project and everything too. So even if you're not a beginner, I would also love to hear from you as well. Oh my goodness. My fingertips are sore from all of that sewing straight for 2 days or for 1 day. Yay! It's done. It's done. Let's go get another ankle. And there we have it, guys. Again, thank you so much for following along. I hope you enjoyed making your Yoshi. And of course, if you want to share on social media as well and show me what you've made, feel free to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. You can see my links in the description below, and you can tag me in your photos. I would love to see him. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.